Hi, how are you? Sorry it took me a while to get back to you. Just Baruch Hashem, so many questions, so many people from all over the world. Sometimes it takes a little while, but I always try to get back to people. So the old question is that, what about when a couple is struggling financially, can barely make ends meet? Should they have kids or not? So the Torah tells us in the Sefer Bereshit that the first mitzvah is purbu. But Akadosh Baruch Hu also tells us that although he created the world initially with midat adin, just judgment, do something wrong, punished, do something wrong, punished, in his infinite wisdom he knew that he cannot continue such a creation because it won't survive a day. So he brought midat rachamim, the trait of mercy. So Hashem created the world in both din and mercy, and he gave us the mitzvot in that way as well, meaning that although he has strict punishment for some of the sins, he also gives us the luxury to do tshuva, which is a mitzvah that doesn't even make rational sense, because it's in essence telling you that even if you rob the bank, Hashem will give you a reward for doing tshuva for it, which is unbelievable. So with that being said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us a lot of time to do tshuva for all the mistakes that we've made and so on. So what about the rest of the mitzvot? What if I want to do a mitzvah, but I can't afford it? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Mi ekdimani va'ashalem. There's a pasuk in the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, who did me a favor first, and I'll pay him right away. Why? Because there's no way that someone did something for Hashem first, and I did not do something for him beforehand. So, but if he did something, I'll pay him right away. I'll pay him cash. So what happens is that sometimes we rationalize some of the mitzvot. We rationalize our life. We put ourselves in a situation where we play like a mini god unintentionally. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, for that is a problem. Why? Because you're humanizing my infinite wisdom and you're limiting my ability to help you. So one of the ways that a lot of people do that is when it comes to children. When it comes to children, people think that once they have money, then they'll get married. And once they have money, then they'll have kids. And once they have more money, then they'll have kids. This is the mistake of all mistakes. And the reason why is because this is an unintentional kfirah in the divine providence, in the Hashgacha Pratit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he's the one that runs the world. And in essence, it's calling Hashem, unfortunately, unintentionally, a vicious God. Why? Because in essence, he's telling you, when we say, well, I'm going to do it after we get it, we're saying that Hashem is giving us mitzvot to have kids, but he's not going to feed them. He's going to starve them to death, Hashem Yishmor. So obviously this is not the case. So what does Hashem do? Hashem gave us a deal. As Chazal teaches in many places, Parnasah comes with the children. Parnasah comes with the children, which means that each child that's born, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the family new parnasah. And the reason why is because schar mitzvah mitzvah. The reward for a mitzvah is another mitzvah. So when a person fulfills the mitzvah of purbu, and not only fulfills the mitzvah of purbu, of having a boy and a girl, but he shows HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he loves this mitzvah so much, and he loves Am Yisrael so much, and he loves the Torah so much, he wants to build a little minyan. He wants to build 2 minyanim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you like my mitzvot so much that you're doing even more than what you have to do. I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to do it. So that's why every time you have a kid, I'm going to give you another mitzvah. I'm going to give you another opportunity. I'm going to give you more reward for it to help you do more mitzvot. So a kid is born, HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens the sharim, the gates of parnasah. So sometimes a couple says, listen, right now we're making $50,000, $100,000 a year. It's enough to sustain, let's say, the family with a couple of kids and 2, 3, 4 kids, wherever, depends where you live. So once we get a raise, once we sign a contract, once we do this, once we do that, then we'll have more kids. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works, because that kid with that $100,000 that you're waiting for, that kid with $1 million that you're waiting for is the next one. It's the one that you didn't have. And that's where I want you to trust me. And that's why he says, Aboteach be'Hashem, chesed yisovevenu. Someone that has full bitachon in Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself promises that person, only kindness will befall him. Only kindness. You trust in Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you kindness. So sometimes a couple is waiting for a big paycheck and they don't realize that that big paycheck hasn't been written yet, simply because it's waiting for them to act. It's waiting for them to make the call, if you will. To HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, we're ready. We're ready. The second thing that a couple needs to know is that because of his mercy trait, Hashem promised us that he will not give us a test that we cannot handle. Which means that if a person has anything that's going on in his life, that means that he can handle it. If he can't handle it, then Hashem would not give it to him. Just like a parent will not give a 2-year-old child a 3-ton car to lift over their head, Hashem is not going to give a couple things that they can't handle. So that means that we are obligated to fulfill the mitzvot and do our ishtadlut, to do everything we can. As far as what the outcome of our mitzvot are, that's only in Hashem's hands. Which means that a couple can try to have kids day and night for as long as they want. Doesn't mean that they're going to succeed. What if they succeed? That means that they can handle it. That means that Hashem is going to give them the tools to handle it. I have a dear friend that him and his wife tried to have kids 14 years. Hashem Yishmor v'yatzil. 14 years they waited, and Be'ezrat Hashem they're going to have a kid in the next week. Be'ezrat Hashem. 14 years they waited. Now these people are religious. He's an avrech. He learns in a kollel, Tamid Chacham, Tzaddik. Everything's good. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you have to wait. Why? That's his business. So that didn't stop them from trying. That didn't stop them from putting their ishtadlut. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu only gave it to them now because now they can handle it. So that's what a person needs to know. Number one, having bitachon Hashem is an obligation. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu nearly destroyed Am Yisrael 10 times in the Chumash, because they didn't have bitachon Hashem. So not having bitachon Hashem is a very big problem. Second of all, that big check, that parnasah, that's the schar mitzvah. The money that we want from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that comes with the kids. That comes with the kids. And the third and most important is that a person needs to know that we are only obligated to do our ishtadlut. The outcome is in Hashem's hands, which means that if it works, that means that Hashem is gifting it to you. He's gifting it to you because you can handle it, and because He's going to give you all the tools that you need to handle it. And that's why we tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you every single day for giving us the ability to breathe, for giving us the ability to eat, for giving us the ability to fulfill your mitzvot, for giving us the ability to reproduce and have the next generation of people that could do the same thing. Look how many children the Arabs in Machshimam, how many children they have. They don't worry about Parnassah, but yet each one of them is having on the average 9.5 kids. I don't know if the half is because they blow them up, because they're terrorists, or they because of it's a statistics. But the point is, they're not worried about Parnassah. Why? Because that same pasuk, Potech b'Hashem chesed yisovevenu, also applies to Reshaim. That's what the Gaon Mivilna says. That Potech b'Hashem chesed yisovevenu, that someone has confidence in Hashem, only kindness will befall him, even applies to Reshaim. If they have confidence in Hashem, Hashem will help them. And He does. What about Am Yisrael, Am HaNivchar? If He's helping the Reshaim, He's helping the terrorists, He's not going to help Am Yisrael? So a person needs to know. We have to apply HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah to thick and thin. Even when it doesn't make sense to our little peony brains. Doesn't make sense to give shulim for a living, for free. Doesn't make sense to give everything you do for free. Doesn't make sense to work at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Doesn't make sense to barely see your kids until Shabbat because you're helping Am Yisrael. Doesn't make sense that you leave Wall Street $3,000 an hour and go work. Doesn't make sense. What? Kadosh Baruch Hu wants soldiers, and that's what we do. That's what we do. And if we can do it, and if the terrorists can do it, and if the people in the Bnei Brak can do it, surely you can do it. Surely you can do it. So Trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu because that's what he's looking for. And I promise you that once you see these blessings come, it's going to improve your emunah, because emunah is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the bigger it gets, the stronger it gets. Have emunah and bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you will never ever regret it. Hopefully this answered your questions, and Be'ezrat Hashem, I look forward to telling you Mazal Tov.